Good morning and welcome to another sold out big event. Yeah, let's hear it for that. I'm Kevin Considine, and on behalf of all of us at Lake County Partners, I am thrilled to see so many leaders, partners, investors, and friends here today. Whether you've been with us for years or this is your first time, thank you for being a part of this morning. Today is about more than a program or a presentation. It's about momentum. It's about the shared belief that when we work together across industries and communities and sectors, that we can shape a stronger, more vibrant future for Lake County and all of Chicagoland. Every person in this room plays a role in that story. You are the business owners creating jobs, or the civic leaders driving our systems, the investors fueling growth, the educators and innovators preparing the next generation, and together you form something powerful, a network committed not just to progress, but to possibility. At Lake County Partners, we often talk about collaboration as a cornerstone of economic development. But what makes this region special is that collaboration isn't just a buzzword. I can't even say it. But it's a mindset. It's a willingness to show up, lean in, and invest in something bigger than ourselves. This morning, you'll hear stories of impact, projects that are transforming communities, and partnerships that are opening doors, and ideas that are turning into action. These aren't just success stories. They are proof points of what happens when vision meets commitment. Several years ago, we led the development of a comprehensive economic development strategy for Lake County. And we looked to John Roberts and his team at TIP to help us think boldly about the future of Lake County. Since we adopted that strategy, we've enacted a series of important initiatives to build on Lake County's momentum and thoughtfully attract opportunity, support innovation, and ensure that growth reaches every corner of the community. Today is yet another critical chance to look ahead. It's a full circle moment for us here to have John with us today, to both reflect on what we've done and to set the stage for how we go forward. The truth is, our progress relies on all of you in this room. Our shared sense of purpose has brought us together here today with the goal of leaving inspired by what we can accomplish together. So on behalf of Lake County Partners, I extend a warm welcome to each and every one of you here today. I want to recognize a few special guests we have. We are fortunate enough to have Congressman Brad Schneider with us here today. LCP is fortunate to have the support and partnership of Lake County. Could I ask all the Lake County board members to please stand? We also work closely with our municipal partners, and we are grateful for that leadership. Could I ask all the mayors, village presidents, trustees, board members, commissioners to please stand? Look at that. That's a lot. We've had the opportunity to strengthen ties with our counterparts across the region through the new Greater Chicagoland Economic Partnership and Team Illinois. Can I ask all of our friends from the state of Illinois, World Business Chicago, the Illinois Economic Development Corporation, and the Chicago Metropolitan Agency for Planning to please stand? Last, but certainly never least, let's give a round of applause for our many members of our Board of Governors who are with us here today. It's because of their leadership and support that Lake County Partners has such a solid track record of delivering economic development for the county. You'll notice that they are wearing, there's a little blue flag on their name tag, so please seek them out and grab them to see how you might be able to get further involved in what we do. We are also here because of the generous support of our event sponsors. In particular, I'd like to recognize our sustaining sponsors, Lake County, the College of Lake County, Old National Bank, the Gorder Family Foundation, the Hunter Family Foundation, and Schreiber Philanthropy. I'll get through a couple more and then we can applause once. I'm also very excited to recognize today our presenting sponsor, and one of the newest investors in Lake County Partners, Kinder Morgan. Thank you also to our partnership sponsors, Abbott and Rosalind Franklin University. And it was fun early this morning, before any of you were here, which is actually the whole point of the early prep this morning. I was walking through here and all the name placards of the sponsored tables were up. And honestly, I was walking around with a grin like a little kid. It was really very fun. So thank you to all of you who have sponsored tables here today. We appreciate that. On that note, I invite you to enjoy breakfast and, more importantly, the company of those around you. We'll be back in a few minutes with a great program today. And for those of you who might be posting on social media, be sure to use hashtag LCP Big Event. And hopefully you saw a bowl, business card bowl. If not, that'll come around. We are raffling off an awesome set of Cubs tickets for a game in a couple weeks. Thanks to our good friend and longtime supporter, Joe Luna from JP Morgan Chase. Thank you. We'll be back in a little bit.
I hope that you had a chance to enjoy some good food and company at your table. We have an exciting program lined up for you, and I'm eager to get us started. But first, we have our lucky winner. Again, thanks to Joe Luna of JP Morgan Chase, over there somewhere. Trish Haddon of Erickson Engineering, you are the big winner. So congratulations. Enjoy that game. You can connect with Barbara Priscilla. She'll get you through email, so you guys can connect on those tickets. And my wife will probably be available for that game, so that'll work for us? Thank you. Again, my name is Dan Joyce. I'm the Chief Operations Officer at Bath Concepts, a family-owned manufacturer headquartered in Libertyville. It has been 1 year since I stood on this stage to assume the role of Chair of Lake County Partners Board of Governors. And since then, it has been my pleasure to work directly with many of you here in this room and out in the community to enhance Lake County's economy, grow business, and make sure that we're positioned for future growth and prosperity. If you have been to one of our events, ribbon cuttings, groundbreakings over the last year, or if you're following along on social media or our newsletters, you know that we have a lot to celebrate this morning. As measured by job growth and investment, 2025 was our best year on record. We not only retained and attracted thousands of new jobs, but we also drove $633 million in capital investment. And when you zoom out, the momentum is even more impressive. Over the last 5 years, we have fueled nearly $2 billion in capital investment. That's billion with a B. As a result of our work, Lake County was named one of the top 10 counties in the entire country for economic development. Exactly. And on top of that, through the great work of the Greater Chicagoland Economic Partnership, Chicagoland was the top metropolitan area in the U.S. for corporate relocations for the 13th consecutive year. So again, great job. These aren't just numbers and statistics. They represent families, careers, businesses, and opportunities that are transforming lives across Lake County. We saw global companies double down on their investment to this region. Companies like AbbVie, Flex, Fortune Brands Innovations, and Bel Air Creations, choosing Lake County because of what they all know to be true. This is a place with exceptional talent, strong infrastructure, and a culture of success. We also welcome new companies planting roots and creating jobs that will tap into our local talent. And we continue to strengthen key industries like life sciences, advanced manufacturing, and professional services, industries that are shaping the future of our economy. While last year was our best year ever, 2026 is off to a strong start. And I'm happy to add to it by announcing today that the company I work for, Bath Concepts, is in the final stages of commitment to build a new 600,000 square foot headquarters and production facility in Libertyville, adding more jobs and investment to our already vibrant community. But our success isn't just about business retention and attraction. It's about building a community where people can thrive. Simply put, we are intentionally building the foundation for long-term competitiveness. We've made meaningful progress in tackling housing challenges expanding early childhood education, and building cradle-to-career talent pipeline. From programs that connect thousands of students with career pathways, to partnerships that align educators and employers, to regional collaborations that are bringing new opportunities to all of Chicagoland. This is what long-term sustainable growth looks like. And perhaps most importantly, we've done it together. Because none of this happens in isolation, it happens because of the partnerships in this room. The public and private sectors working side by side, aligning around a shared vision for Lake County's future. So today, as we reflect on everything we've accomplished, we should feel proud, but not complacent. Because the story of Lake County is still being written, the pipeline for 2026 is strong, the momentum is real, and the opportunity in front of us is even greater than what's behind us. Let this morning be the encouragement that you need to keep building, keep working together, and keep showing what's possible when a community comes together with purpose. And that brings us to one of the many standout stories from this year, our annual Community Investment Award. Recognizes a company that is having a major impact on Lake County, investing in a way that strengthens our entire ecosystem. We are so proud to present this year's Community Investment Award to Flex. Flex recently expanded its footprint in Lake County with a new facility dedicated to drug delivery devices. This expansion is creating new jobs, building on an already strong workforce across Flex's multiple sites in the county. The expansion is a vote of confidence in Lake County's talent, infrastructure, and strong leadership. Flex's continued growth here reinforces what we know to be true. When global companies have a choice, they choose communities that collaborate, innovate, and deliver, and Lake County does exactly that. It is my pleasure to welcome two leaders who are helping drive that impact forward. Please join me in congratulating and welcoming Melinda Chong and Sid Schroff, accepting the Community Investment Award on behalf of Flex. Thank you to Melinda, Sid, and the entire Flex team. We are grateful for the investments you have made in Lake County. We have one final award that we are excited to present today. This next recognition speaks to someone we all know is essential to long-term economic success, but doesn't always get the spotlight it deserves: talent. Because behind every business expansion, every new investment, and every success story that we'll talk about this morning, there's one common thread: people. A skilled, prepared, and continually evolving workforce is what makes all of it possible. That's why we're proud to honor College of Lake County with this year's Talent Advancement Award. The College of Lake County plays a critical role in shaping the future of our region. Through innovative programs, strong partnerships with employers, and a deep understanding of workforce needs, they are creating clear, accessible pathways from education to career. By providing an effective pathway to degrees and certificates, CLC is preparing students for in-demand roles in key industries like healthcare, manufacturing, and IT. Through expanding apprenticeships and work-based learning and aligning curricula with real-world industry needs, their impact is both immediate and lasting. Strategic investments in facilities like the Advanced Technology Center in Gurnee and the downtown Waukegan campus further expand access to hands-on training and community-based workforce development. CLC's commitment to equity, innovation, and regional partnerships, along with initiatives in emerging fields like clean energy and sustainable agriculture, demonstrates a sustained impact on local talent and economic growth across Lake County. At the College of Lake County, they are not only educating students, they are strengthening businesses, supporting families, and helping ensure that opportunity is within reach for more people across Lake County. And what truly sets them apart is their commitment to collaboration. They listen, they adapt, and they lead with a clear focus on outcomes, making them an indispensable partner in our shared work to grow and sustain a competitive regional economy. It's my honor to recognize an institution that is truly building the talent pipeline of today and tomorrow. Please join me in congratulating Dr. Lori Suddick, President of the College of Lake County, and her team as they accept the Talent Advancement Award.
Well, thank you, Lake County Partners, for this acknowledgement and for your partnership. As has been noted, none of us do this work alone, and we're really thankful for this recognition today. It is Community College Month, for those of you who may not know that. So what a wonderful way for our team to celebrate this. With me on the stage are some members of my executive team. Just for the sake of time, I'm not going to name them, but they can raise their hands. And if you don't know them, please take the time to get to know them. Also joining them are some members of our Community and Workforce Partnerships Unit who are out and about and partnering with all of you. They can raise their hands, and I hope you'll make connections with them. But also with me, and as Kevin and others have noted, the work that we do is not done alone. We measure our success by the success that we create for others. And our ability to meet students and businesses and communities where they are and get them where they want to go means we have to build out integrated strategic partnerships that are designing systems that are integrated to ensure that whomever is touching any one of us in our workforce ecosystem, they are getting what they need, regardless of which institution it is. So I also have on the stage three of our very favorite workforce partners, Jennifer Serino, DeMar Harris, and Antonio Garcia, because their work is our work, and we are integrated in this partnership together. We are very grateful for the recognition. I am grateful to work with such amazing partners within this community, all who are represented in this room. Our K-12 partners, our Regional Office of Education, our university partners, our donors. I love that everyone is adopting the mindset of collaboration, commitment that is driving solution finding for community vibrancy. So thank you all. Lake County is a great place, and I do believe its best is yet to come. Good luck with everything in the future. Thank you.
Congratulations to Dr. Suddick and the entire team at the College of Lake County on a job well done. It's always an honor to work with you. It's also a pleasure to work with our next speaker because she, along with the rest of the Lake County Board, play a pivotal role in shaping the future of our community. Please welcome to the stage Lake County Board Chair Sandy Hart. Sandy was elected to the Lake County Board in 2012, and she has served as the chair since 2018. She has been a longtime champion of economic development in the county and the Chicagoland region, and an integral part of Lake County Partners leadership. We appreciate your tireless dedication, thoughtful insights. Thank you for being with us.
Hi, good morning, everybody. It is wonderful to be here with you today at the big event. Every year, I really look forward to this, not just because it's so nice to catch up with so many people I don't often get to see, but also because it brings together so many of you who care deeply about Lake County's future and who are actively working to make it a wonderful place to live and work. And this certainly includes the many volunteers, nonprofits, and philanthropic groups who invest time and resources in education, job training, healthcare, housing, and much more. Thank you for fulfilling the needs of our residents and creating opportunities so that everyone has a chance to succeed. And of course, I want to give a shout out to the great team of dedicated professionals whom I get to work with every day, and that's our Lake County employees. With their help and expertise, the Lake County Board is following through on a simple commitment: to serve our residents, support our communities, and focus on delivering a high quality of life, economic opportunity, and sustainability. We continue to invest in the infrastructure that makes it faster and safer to get around Lake County. We're addressing flooding and improving emergency response, protecting your homes, your businesses, and your families. And we're investing in our greatest asset of all, which is our people. Businesses locate here for many reasons, but one of the most important is our workforce, as you just heard. Our highly educated workforce is second to none, helping to make Lake County the #1 life sciences hub in the Midwest. In partnership with organizations like Lake County Partners, apprenticeship programs, workforce development, and educational institutions, we're helping our residents build careers that offer stability, growth, and opportunity. We know that when our workforce succeeds, our businesses succeed, and we all benefit. But we do face a very real problem, and that's a lack of housing for our workforce. And Lake County, with the leadership and guidance of Eric Wagner, is collaborating with business, government, developers, and community organizations to increase our attainable housing supply, ensuring that the people who power our economy, our teachers, our healthcare workers, young families, and longtime residents can continue to live and thrive here. Our ability to remain a vibrant, inclusive, and economically strong county depends on it. And I know we will hear more about that from our keynote speaker. Sustainable growth is critical in protecting our environment, and sustainability is the thread that runs through our decisions and our programs. I know there are several of you here today who have made changes to your business model to become more sustainable. So we created the Lake County Green Business Program to recognize your businesses for the positive impacts you've made, whether it's through energy efficiency, reducing waste, or conserving water. If you're proud of the work that your company is doing and you want to be recognized, please check out the application on our website, because sustainability and business success go hand in hand in Lake County. And speaking of the environment, Lake County board members also get to serve on the Forest Preserve Board. I know the Forest Preserve team is back there. Give us a wave. There they are. Thanks, Gina. Gina and Jessica are back there with our team. We are protecting and restoring over 31,000 acres of oak forests, savannas, and wetlands. I hope this spring and summer you're able to get out and enjoy our preserves. I think it's a huge reason why people want to live in Lake County. And I just want to give a little shout out for two things happening. The Independence Grove Beer Garden is open on May 1, May 1. And be sure to check out our Tuesday evening summer concert starting on June 9th. And since this is America's 250th anniversary, we're offering ways for our residents to connect with our shared history and our civic identity. We've started a civics academy so residents can see firsthand how local government operates and how the services we provide today are directly connected to the founding principles of the Declaration of Independence. Principles like self-governance, accountability, and service to the community. You can also visit our website to see our interactive map that highlights historical landmarks across Lake County, and there are more events this summer to mark this important occasion. So while we celebrate our nation's history, we're always looking to the future, focusing on how we will grow responsibly, attract new investment, and ensure that opportunity and joy reaches every corner of our county. I'm really proud of the investments that we've made. But it's through your investment in Lake County, Your decision to locate and grow your business here, providing stable and good-paying jobs that really allows us to provide our residents with the quality of life they want. And it's also your investment in your neighborhood. You serve on local village and city boards, you volunteer in schools and churches and nonprofits across Lake County. You're coaching little kids, joining softball teams, and helping out with holiday celebrations. You're making connections and creating a community. And really, what could be better than that? So on behalf of the Lake County Board, thank you for making Lake County such a wonderful place to live and work, and we hope to see you at one of the many block parties, parades, and festivals this summer. And it's now my pleasure to invite Dan back to the stage. Thank you.
And as we continue this morning of celebrating partnership and partner progress, it's important to recognize the organizations that help make gatherings like this possible. Not enough coffee yet. Our presenting sponsor is a company that understands the critical role infrastructure and energy plays in powering economic growth. Kinder Morgan is one of the largest energy infrastructure companies in North America, and their work quite literally fuels the movement of our economy. But what makes their presence here especially meaningful is their commitment beyond infrastructure, their investments in communities, their focus on safety and sustainability, and their engagement as a strong corporate partner. We're grateful for their support of Lake County Partners and for their role in helping us bring this event and conversations like this to life. And now, on behalf of Kinder Morgan and Lake County Partners, it's my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker. John Roberts brings decades of experience at the intersection of innovation, technology, and economic development. And as a principal and managing partner at TIP Strategies, it has worked with communities across the country, from New York to California and through the Great Lakes region, and helping them shape strategies that drive growth and competitiveness. Closer to home, John played a key role in developing Lake County's comprehensive economic development strategy, helping to align our regional vision and set the course for long-term success. He's also the author of The Cost of Cool, a thought-provoking look at what makes communities stand out on a global stage and how they can foster equitable growth. At your table, you'll find a copy of this book to take home. Today, John brings a unique perspective on how regions like ours can leverage their strengths, embrace innovation, and compete in an increasingly dynamic economy. Please join me in welcoming him to the stage.
Thank you, sir. Good, kind introduction. Well, I hope that you're as excited about this as I have been, and I look forward to walking through a presentation that I've never given before. So please bear with me as we go through this. I think that the topics that we want to talk about go beyond the book. And by way of introduction, you heard a little bit about our company. We've been in this business for quite a long while now. We have a national profile. I think we're the largest remaining independent economic development consultancy, and we just celebrated our 30th year. A little bit more about your speaker. I didn't know that I would get such a kind introduction, but this is the bio that my mother would have been proud of. What's not on there is recognition of the work that we had the privilege of doing when we worked with Kevin's team. And I have to say, of the many, many clients that we've had, hundreds and hundreds over the years, I've never been with such a professional group and a group that has had such dedication to the community as is represented by your partners. But Kevin saw this slide and he wondered what I would be talking about. Well, this is the other look at me and my connection to Lake County and to Waukegan in particular. I don't know when this was taken, maybe 1970. And yes, that's me. And for those of you of a certain age, you will know that this is Vietnam. And the person on the right you will recognize as well. It's one of your visionaries, Ray Bradbury. And during that time, lonely as I was, but I was a Ray Bradbury fan, and so I wrote him. And we had a long exchange of letters. And I knew that he was from Waukegan. I appreciated that connection and have had it ever since. So being here is a special privilege to me. But that's not the topic. And I'd like to begin with a different perspective, and that is that, I don't know, maybe before COVID, I was asked by the Texas Business Monthly to write an article that looked at what the Texas economy would be 50 years out. And I thought, that's the silliest assignment that I would ever take. But of course, I wanted my name in print, and so I agreed to write the article. And I thought, what on earth can I possibly talk about? I haven't a clue. I'm not a futurist. I have no idea what things will look like in 50 years. But I had to write something. So I thought, well, maybe I'll take a different perspective on this. And the perspective I took is, well, what if I went back 50 years and looked at where Texas was 50 years ago? And what I discovered was that all the seeds of whenever that was, 2012 or thereabouts, were already present 50 years before. Moore's Law, for those of you who are in the tech industry, know the significance of Moore's Law, the doubling, in effect, of computer speeds. All of that was already there. All of the technology was already present 50 years ago. And it completely changed the way that I thought about this. And so I went back 50 years from now, and it was in exactly 50 years ago that the first Apple computer was introduced. At a price tag, by the way, of $666.66. Steve Jobs had a sense of humor. And then I thought, well, how should I think about that? And here's another slide that befuddled Kevin. And I thought about how tech does and doesn't influence the business community. In 1926, Rolex had its first waterproof watch, going back 50 years. But then in 1976, actually a little bit earlier, something happened that completely disrupted the Swiss watch industry, destroyed it. And that was the introduction of digital technology into watches. So an entire sector was effectively wiped out. I actually visited the Omega factory in Bienne, Switzerland, and they told me that they had basically, in bankruptcy, were selling off their entire watch collection, including the Omega that John Kennedy wore at the inauguration. That's how impoverished that industry was. But that was 50 years ago. And now we're 50 years on, and that watch industry is stronger than ever. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. So what's the point here? The point is that while technology disrupts radically, there's a pathway through technology that is a counter-influence to it. And the fact of wanting that 2026 watch is true even though we don't need to know the time on our wrist. So the larger question here is that we are the drivers of the economy, not the technology. Because yes, I can always know what time it is by looking at my phone or any number of other devices. And so the fact that technology can radically transform an industry doesn't mean that what we want being made by humans doesn't change. This is an important insight. And it goes beyond just watches. This, for those of you who are chess fans, maybe not many, but I think this was, 1996? It's when Deep Blue, the IBM computer, beat the then world champion of chess, Garry Kasparov. So the same kind of question arose in the watch industry. What's the point of chess anymore when any top-tier computer can beat any human. But what happened instead is that chess is more popular than ever. And similar to the watch industry, and this is important, we as humans expect certain things, and as with the watch, the technology can coexist, both with the technology and what we want made by humans. And so, if you think now going out 50 years and you think about what's going to happen next in technology, you realize that some of the things that are so frightening to us in AI can actually coexist with us, and in a sense, will need to coexist with us. So let's take a look at why the advances in technology are something that we actually need. Now, this chart will take some explanation, and I think I'm going to cut my time down to maybe 3.5 hours. Is that all right with you? Because any one of these charts could take a very long time to explain, but this is a very important one. That line that you see going across is the average number of jobs that are created annually. And so when you hear those job reports at 150,000 jobs a year or so on, that tracks this. It's a flat line. Of course, it varies. But more importantly are those upward tilting graphs, and that's the working age population. And you see what happens here is you go out past where we are now in 2026, and that is that we simply don't have the workforce necessary to meet the demand. So I hope you're seeing the connection here, because even in all of our reaction against technology, the fact is that if it weren't for that technology, we simply wouldn't be able to meet the demand for workers. Now, there are things that can change this, but all of the things that would change this are politically fraught. So the first of those is immigration. Faced with this national crisis, and a national crisis that extends to Europe and Korea, Japan, and increasingly to China. So immigration would change this. But as you know, that's not where we are. The other thing that would change it is to increase the retirement age. That would give us a number of years. But as you also know, that's politically fraught. And when France tried to do it, they had riots in the street. Two other things could change it, even more politically fraught, arguably. And the first of those is to simply outsource the jobs, send them elsewhere. But it's not just the current administration, it was the previous administration as well that said, no, we don't want to outsource those jobs. So there's only one solution left, and that's technology. It's automation. So however you may feel about it, this is the reality. That all of the factors that could change the demand for workers in this, and by the way, we have, on top of this, we have a declining fertility rate. And even if we all wanted to solve this and could, starting, I don't know, tonight, we'd still be 9 months and 18 years out, wouldn't we? So that's not what you expected to hear, perhaps. You wanted a little bit about the Austin story and the book that's on your table. But that Austin story is this story of an embrace and recognition going back 50 years of technology, of the fact that, and I'll overstate things here, no economic success, no financial success is possible anymore without technology, regardless of what industry you're in. That's still a little bit of an upsetting statement, but I believe it to be true. So what about Austin, since that's what you expected to hear about? And what is the connection to Lake County? So let's just begin with what I came to experience when I moved to Austin in, I think, 1994, thereabouts. And it was a community that, to me, represented an unusual balance between sustainability, environmental consciousness, and the growth of the tech sector. It was the first community in what's sometimes called the Heartland that actually moved forward on technology. The past, as you know, of technology growth has been in and around Stanford University on the one hand and MIT and Harvard on the other. So this was the first community that said, we are going to double down on this, and the University of Texas is a critical component of that. So higher education is not really negotiable, but it can be a regional approach. So this basic commitment to sustainability was a huge factor in being able to attract the workforce that Austin was so successful in doing. And if you look at our growth curve, we have an extraordinary growth curve. And it's showing no sign of abating. And part of the success of that image was something that no Chamber of Commerce would have ever come up with. Every Chamber of Commerce comes up with some version of this being a great place to live, work, and play. But our question about great place to live, work, and play is, what does that commit you to? What does it mean when you say that you are a great place to play? And it's in asking those questions that we really get a different perspective. And Austin's Keep Austin Weird became a national, and Portland claims it actually. But it came out of small businesses wanting to maintain an identity in Austin. And all of these pictures are really iconic. And the weirdness was also about the music scene. South by Southwest just concluded not very long ago. And that music scene was the most unusual mashup between counterculture music, the hippie movement on the one hand, and country and western. That's the most unlikely of possible combinations. And it stuck, including a vibrant blues scene. And you'll notice that the title of the book is also about the people left behind. And our president and my partner, Tracy McDaniel's chapter on that book really details what it has meant for Austin to have had that community and now to be losing it. There were other things that Austin understood in its vision, and the through line of my remarks really is about vision. And that vision from the very outset and the very beginning of the book is that it would be a seat of empire in the early 19th century. It's an insane notion. A seat of empire at a community of the time that had less than 200 residents. It's just craziness. And that's the other point here, is that you're not going to get a vision through committees at a chamber, forgive me. You're going to get it through an extraordinary kind of energy and partnerships and belief. And I think this partnership has that. It has that. It's ingrained in you in some important way. Well, so what did that mean? If you're going to be the seat of empire, silly comment, but what does it mean in a modern context? It means that you're a global city. And so we really doubled down on air connections at a time when Austin really, the airport was a single escalator to a second floor. In 1995, with the first ticketing, I had an electronic ticket, but they weren't really set up for it. And I arrived at the airport on my way to Chicago, by the way, and realized that I wasn't in the system. And I talked my way onto the airplane. Can you imagine that in these days? I said, really? I literally stood there and I said, I know I don't have a ticket, but you know, I'm on the plane, and this is my seat. And they said, oh, go ahead. Different era. Different era. But we took this very seriously. And then we doubled down on all of the things, for better or worse. So we produced this thing, which my wife likens to a Dempsey dumpster. But it is an important part of our DNA that we understand that connection between manufacturing and technology. That's the story here. So what are the lessons here, and how might they apply to you in Lake County? The first is I absolutely have this belief that vision is the driving force. But it's not vision in the sense that we sit down and try to craft a vision statement. It's in our DNA to find that vision. And I think in many ways you are already there. And I think that would be the topic of conversation that I would like to have going forward. And how you achieve that vision and who participates in it is so critical. The quirkiness, it's totally organic. It can't be manufactured. And you all have it. And then there's the technology itself. But it's not something that you want diluted. In other words, growth is a component of it, but to maintain the identity is a critical piece. And then the music scene, and one thing I talk about a lot in the book is that I was with a professor at the university, and I kept pressing him early on in the writing of the book. I kept pressing him, why did Austin succeed? And he just got really frustrated at a certain point with me, and he said, John, maybe it's just something in the water. And I thought, yeah, well, and I went back and I reflected on it. And I realized that part of Austin's early identity was its springs and creeks, and the Colorado River really was in the water. And from an economic development perspective, I came to the maybe begrudging realization that your success isn't just in what you develop, but in what you don't develop. That's no small point. And I don't think it's a small point at all for Lake County. That what you don't develop is as important as what you do. We had a springs, Barton Springs, famous for dipping into the cool waters. And the preservation of Barton Springs became the environmental turning point for Austin's preservation of its waterways. And we have an extensive web of trails that allows you to walk all over the city without even seeing a car. Imagine that. And again, when I think about Lake County, I think about the way in which your access to the lake is that kind of unique value proposition. And we cultivated the entrepreneurial ecosystem. And there's a chapter in there that says something that is also a little bit controversial, that you can't have a thriving entrepreneurial ecosystem unless you also are connected with higher education and research on the one hand, and with corporations on the other. Very important point. So what about Lake County? Having the privilege to work on that comprehensive strategy that we did for the partners was really a way of seeing that your future is extraordinary, but it has things that are limiting it. And housing, I was giving a similar talk in Wisconsin, in Madison, a number of years ago, and the speaker before me, arguably even duller than I was, droned on for a very long time about their target industries, and half the room was nodding off. I wasn't. Because what he said, in effect, was, what is the point of your target industries, of trying to recruit certain industries, if you don't have the people that can work in those industries? What's the point? And the reason you don't have those people is because there's no place for them to live. It was such an obvious economic development connection that I thought, wait a minute, you need to be paying attention to this professor from the University of Wisconsin, whom I then stayed in contact with, because he's actually brilliant. He was just a poor public speaker, but his message was so critical. What's the point of recruiting companies for whom you need workers that have no place to live? The company may want to come here, but what's the point? So the housing question was not some small incidental part of the economic development strategy. It's really critical to it. And along with that was a recognition that much of the workforce issues that every community faces is not going to be met when they get into the workplace. It goes all the way back to early childhood education. These are hard things for economic developers to process. This is not something that you would think that we would want to have to attend to, but you do have to attend to it, as you do all these other things, and the regional collaboration, and the opportunity to enhance what is essential to that community's identity. And your lakefront connection, your connection to O'Hare, these are all things that are globally significant. Globally significant. And these strengths are strengths that really, well, I think my first connection to Lake County was Ray Bradbury a very long time ago, very unfortunate circumstances. But he really is a hero, by the way, to a lot of people, including me. But the other big connection I had was working for the governor in the state of Washington running economic development when Chicago took Boeing away. You may remember that period. Literally, the headquarters left the state of Washington. What year was that? I think it was 90-something. 93. I was still up in Seattle. It was a shocker. It was a shocker. But it was representative of a broader shift of recognition to where talent was going to be, where it was affordable, where housing was still possible in a realistic way. So these strengths, and including the development potential, and I just wanted to call out for a moment, and you can read these, and you know these very well, and you've been hearing about them. But we were impressed, and it's not a coincidence that Kevin's group and you are on that list of the top economic development performers in the nation. Because it's the ability to leverage those assets that have put you in this favorable position. And so the thing I'd like to focus on most is the development potential. And I know that we're going to have to do a strange balancing act here, on the one hand, between what isn't developed and what you can develop. So the preservation of the lakefront and the sustainable components of walkable paths and rivers, it's beautiful here. It's just beautiful. And I don't know how many people know that you can be in the orbit of one of the major cities in the world and within half an hour be in pristine environment. It's an extraordinary asset. It's why I personally stayed in Austin, because I felt I could have that there. And in fact, Erica, who came with me from TIP, has just moved up to this area. So I think that these components need to center down onto specific development opportunities. And I called out Naval Stations Great Lake. That's not an easy lift, but it's the kind of development that you can take, maybe 70-odd acres, Kevin? A lot of cleanup, incredible amount of work, but where vision can drive what kind of development you can do here, which would be really extraordinary. And so when you start looking at where those development potential areas are, you realize that you can be in a very, very favorable position. So I'm sensitive to the time here, and I don't want to run over on you. But let's just take a look at some of, I think, the discussion points for you going forward. And at the top of those is economic mobility. And that is really a question of how economic developers think about. A rising tide does not lift all boats. It's a hard lesson to learn. And it's one that I discuss a lot with our president, with Tracy. Because her recognition of what Austin has lost and what it means in terms of, and even if you didn't for a moment have any desire for equity, if there are any people like that in the room, I would assume not, but even if you had no commitment whatsoever to equity, you would know that you were bearing the cost of those who were left behind. You were bearing that cost. If I can't find affordable housing for the people that clean your houses, mow your lawns, then where are they going to go? They're going to move out of the city, and they're going to commute into the city. And that is an enormous cost to a community. So the diversity of housing is one example here, is not something that is just sort of vaguely negotiable because it doesn't affect you. It most certainly affects you. And that's why the economic mobility is at the top of that list. And if you go down there, of course, housing, the climate resiliency, and I think that the climate resiliency is an interesting one because Kevin and I talked about this a little bit. Just to give you a kind of a graphic representation, I'm not going to go on a whole lot longer, but any one of these slides could really consume us for an hour. We could talk about this. So this was, we just picked one at random about a decade ago, and that was when Puerto Rico was hit, you may remember this, by Hurricane Maria. And what this chart shows is where people left after that hurricane hit. And we did that by getting FEMA applications, because people put in FEMA applications. We had a similar experience in Texas after Katrina. Now, unsurprisingly, the bulk of people who left Puerto Rico went to Florida. But look up in the Chicago area. So the point here is that there are external factors that are going to influence your growth if you can think, if you have vision. And vision, not in the abstract, but vision really in the sense that we can position ourselves for those changes. And climate migration is real. If there are people here who don't believe that the climate is changing, that's okay. None of this has to be political, just like immigration doesn't have to be political. The reality is that the cost of these natural disasters continues to grow. I spend a lot of time in Oregon. I have a place in Bend. Our constant fear every summer is fires. Constant. And there are days we simply cannot go outside where the particulate matter is over 200. You literally can't breathe outside. So where people are going to go as a result of these, whether you believe any of this or not, is really irrelevant. Just like your position on immigration is irrelevant in terms of the needs of the industry and of the people. And that's what's going to happen here. So you are in a very favorable position when it comes to climate change. And the climate question really is hitting corporate relocation decisions in entirely new ways. And when you think about all the traditionally, site selection has been driven by just two factors. It's available workforce, and this is Site Selection Magazine saying this. This is not me sort of ad-libbing. It's always been a combination of workforce and transportation. Can I get in and out? But we're going to add some things to that. The one thing we're going to certainly be adding to it is availability of energy. And again, not least because of AI, because of the data center requirements and the energy that the data centers need. And it's really quite extraordinary if you see that curve, and we could talk about that for a very long while. But all of these things are ones, and climate resiliency was the question mark there, but all of these factors are ones that you in the partnership are thinking about and need to think about on a regular basis. And so it's also important, and we're doing some work with CMAP, and we've kind of taken a regional perspective on this and looked at and created a job quality access tool in which we really kind of measure up the available jobs against the skill sets. And we're happy to share that with you. I won't go into all of it right now, but I want to conclude by talking a little bit about how other counties think about these questions. And some of them define themselves. Williamson County is the county outside of Austin, and their logo is "We Aren't Weird." Gwinnett County, where we're working right now, is a county that is determined to position itself, and there are important similarities here to Lake County, to position itself as that county which is the most desirable place to live within the entire Atlanta metro area. And they've done an extraordinary job. Do you know what people from Gwinnett call themselves? Gwinnetians. How could I possibly make that up? And they so thoroughly believe it. I was wearing a little Gwinnett. They have pins with little logos. And I was wearing it on the plane. And the flight attendant, this young man came up to me and says, "Oh, you must have been in Gwinnett County." And I said, "Yes, I was." He says, "Isn't it wonderful?" And I thought, my God, have they paid this person to... But that image making in Gwinnett has really been extraordinary. Contrasted with Chester County, these are all places that we worked, where the image is very different, where we're just going to provide you with a completely different experience from the urban experience. So all of these, I think, are relevant to how you go forward here in Lake County. And I'm going to conclude by saying that part of that challenge is to envision the next 50 years. And I really did think this was silly until I did that article, that you really can think about 50 years. And I had a very personal revelation when my first grandchild was born. And I thought to myself, you know, Henry's going to be alive in the 22nd century, God willing. 22nd century. That's like crazy. But there he is. And the things that we are doing in Bend, Oregon, the roads that we're building, the things that are being constructed, are the things that he's going to be living with. It's not silly to think out 50 years. It's necessary to think out 50 years. So part of that is really accomplished by thinking about the structures and aligning the structures with action. And think about the structure that is necessary to take that longer vision. I don't like slides with words on it, but forgive me with this. But that really, I think, tells you very clearly that we have to think about the programs that we have, the kinds of governance, how we zone things, what our fiscal policy is. And that has to be translated into action, into new developments, into improving the green belts and the riparian areas and the lakefront improvements. And you see all that emphasis on sustainability because that's where people will want to live. So what does it take to get there? We really are almost done. I'll be getting a signal soon. But one of those is something I've really come to believe in very strongly, and that's the idea of a Futures Council under whatever name you want to give it. And Austin, in a very innocuously named AERO, Austin Economic Research Organization, doesn't mean anything, but it is a Futures Council that did things like when the old airport, if you ever flew into Austin in the old days, that same little airport that I talked my way onto a flight on, when it moved, it was 700 acres. And that 700 acres is now a huge, huge urban center of its own within the city, separate from the downtown. But the airport moved, and that commitment to international flights was part of what that Futures Council vision was. So that's the kind of example that I think is really, really telling. The other important lesson I learned about Futures Council, two of them, one is in Fort Collins, Colorado, where the city manager some 30-odd years ago said, we are going to take this longer-term view. And Fort Collins has been extraordinarily successful. And then finally, the work that we did up in Green Bay, where the Green Bay Packers created that on our recommendation. And the Packers, by the way, and I had the privilege of spending a lot of time with Mark Murphy, and it resulted in things like Titletown, which we worked on with them, and a venture fund, which is very successful now, over $100 million from that venture fund, which we helped write the due diligence for. So that longer-term vision of a community is really also within your grasp. So I'm going to end with just this last slide about the future is now. And Kevin knew what this was. You all know what this is? So this is the next scary thing. This is a quantum computer. Actually, it's not a quantum computer at all. All of that stuff is just a way of keeping this tiny little chip cold. And I mean very cold. Because at the quantum level, it has to be as close to 0 degrees as you can possibly make it. And what happens then, and I could go on for a very long time, what happens then is that you completely short circuit the binary processing of a computer. And the speeds at which information becomes available goes up by orders of magnitude. And the most optimistic projection of quantum computing is, what, maybe 5 years out? Microsoft is saying it thinks it can be done in 5 years. Well, 5 years is a very short time, and guess who else is working on this? They're how far away, Kevin? Maybe 45 minutes away? At the University of Chicago. So quantum computing is going to happen. I can't explain it to you because no one can explain it to you, including the people who are working on it. But it's going to happen all the same. And when it does, AI will seem like just the foot in the door. That's how extraordinary the progress in the next few years, and the progress is accelerating. So your positioning vis-a-vis new technologies, it's our belief that a Futures Council, at the same time that it's working in parallel around what you don't develop, is Lake County's future. And it's a very, very bright future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Thank you for nudging us to think through the next 50. I also want to clarify that Naval Station Great Lakes is not going anywhere. There is some land outside the fence that they're working to clean up and hopefully enable. In fact, they do have some sites that they are looking for some commercial partnership on. Were they here, they could help with that. But very quickly, you know, John, the strategic plan that you led, that you've talked about so well, has been very impactful for the region. It has led to important issues like Housing Lake, the county-led effort, which is rolling into its phase 2 this spring. 2 important studies in early childhood. So importantly, we took that strategic plan and didn't just put it on the shelf. We actually put it into action. Including the groundbreaking for a new early childhood center in Zion in just 2 weeks. Coming up this fall will be our 3rd annual Navigate Lake Youth Career Fair. Huge, impactful efforts, and thank you, Dr. Carner and the team, that I see all of you sitting right here at the Gorder table. Thank you for all of your work there. And importantly, the creation of the Greater Chicagoland Economic Partnership, which I have just returned from 10 days in Germany, hence the volume of coffee I've had this morning, where a group of us from around the region, city and suburbs, spent 10 days pitching Chicagoland to businesses and organizations and universities across Germany. Super impactful effort. Many of my colleagues over here at the World Business Chicago table are equally bleary-eyed from that trip, and we appreciate that. And we appreciate this nudge to look ahead. John's going to stick around after the show in the room across the hall. Please go ahead and grab some more coffee. And of course, one of our legendary bent fork brownies. I honestly think a third of you really just come to this event for the brownie. So please find that. Thank you to Dan and Sandy and to the rest of our board for being here today and showing us so much support throughout the year. Special thanks to Kinder Morgan for being our presenting sponsor this year. And extra congratulations to the teams from Flex and the College of Lake County on receiving your awards, and thank you for all that you do in the community. I do want to take just an extra moment to thank you, Dr. Sudik, for your leadership over the last 8 years. Yes. The tremendous positive impact that you have made on our students, our workforce, and our community will last a long, long time. Thank you. Finally, I'd like to express my appreciation for our sponsors. Special thanks to Lake County, the College of Lake County again, Old National Bank, the Gorder Family Foundation, the Hunter Family Foundation, Schreiber Philanthropy, Abbott, Rosalind Franklin University, and thanks to all of you for your table sponsorships today. We sincerely appreciate your support. And of course, we couldn't do this without the team LCP. Thank you, Barbara, Ron, Paris, Steve, and Joan. Have a great weekend, and we look forward to conquering all these things together. Thank you.